worldwide scale? Are we being lied to? I don't know. I don't
You know,
know.
I think on several aspects. I mean, like going to the China thing, I think, you know, and it's ironic. And there's a book out that's written by two Chinese generals that is called Unrestricted Warfare. And they talk of this one was written several years ago, but they talk about how to take down America. And they talk about how China needs to gather up the wealth, which they have through debt.
Yep.
Then they were going to release a computer virus. They were in the book, they talk about releasing a computer virus to our infrastructure and through the web and through all of that. Well, take away it being a computer virus, and now they just happen to come up with a real virus and the effects that it had. And then combine that with, if we look at when this first started in, you know, it really started in China probably in October, November time period,
Right.
at least. And during that time, China was having the problems with all of the protests going on in Hong Kong. Tens of millions of people coming out and gaining popularity in the protest against their government and starting to even go across into mainland China. So what better way to get the people to back in their homes and stomp that out? Because they tried doing it with military, and the repercussions from the international community was tremendous in stopping that. What better way to do it than,
is a example? Yeah.
yeah. So what better way to do it than introduce a virus, a man-made virus that would cause enough fear to get people to self-quarantine in a sense, or at least do that. And that's what we've done here too. I mean, I think back to the 30s. I wasn't around in the 30s, but I think back then, because I'm a history buff,
Right.
especially military. And, you know, the 30s, we had the cholera outbreak.
Right.
If you had cholera or you were susceptible to it, they quarantined you. The rest of the country went on with life.
Right.
I mean, we've really taken away, as you said, personal responsibility.
Right.
I mean, every restaurant in my mind should be open. If you want to go to a restaurant and it's too crowded and you don't like it, well, then don't go. It shouldn't be up to the government telling me where I can and can't go.
Well, and the government really, on a basis thought here, really doesn't have the authority to do that.
No, they don't.
All of these governors that have taken on so much responsibility, they're passing laws. Governors don't pass laws. So there's some really weird crap going on in the middle of all of this, in the gray area, that needs to be addressed in some way. Look at this lady in Texas, just opened her salon despite the law. She says, my people are starving. I need to open my business. And she did. And they arrested her. I just saw on the news just today her court appearance in front of this judge that was just unbelievable. But if you take it to other levels, we're letting criminals out of prison because they've got a virus. And then we've got police coming to people's house to holler and chastise them about their kid playing out on the lawn.
Yeah.
In some places, now in Tennessee, it hasn't been to that level. But watching the news every day like you do and like I do, because that's all we got to do, is it's mind-boggling what is going on here. I saw it was kind of humorous to see a guy jogging on the beach in LA a couple of weeks ago and a cop chasing him. Beach, nobody there, 6 a.m. A policeman in full police uniform running behind a jogger to catch him, and he couldn't catch him. The jogger kept on running and accelerated faster and faster because the dude was in shape, and the cop finally ran out of gas. But I'm thinking, what are you doing?
Yeah. Well, that guy, did you see the guy that was paddleboarding?
No.
In California, he's paddleboarding in the ocean by himself. They take a boat. The police take a boat out, contact him, tell him to go into the shore. 2 other cops meet him. 2 police officers meet him in full uniform, escort him to their car. None of them are wearing protective equipment. And you're going to take a guy that's by himself and put two people who have been around all kinds of people and potentially, I mean, talk about a misjustice of resources. It's just ridiculous.
It is. And of course, I think a lot of these, I don't know how much of this is really going on. We see a lot of it, of course. We all watch YouTube and we're all on Twitter and we see everything that's happening. But on the gut level, again, here you and I sit in our house. And this has to stop. I'm really tired of seeing people on TV broadcasting from their basements.
Right.
This is just absurdity. It's absurdity. And somebody needs to get a hold of it. I like Trump. I'm not a full-fledged 100% I does, put on my Make America Great. But he is the president, and he's been dealt a really weird hand. And I think he's handling it as best he can. And I think he's starting to really see that, hey, we need to open this up. We need to do it.
Yeah.
So I think that's why we're starting to see it open up. But boy, oh boy, it's going to be a new paradigm for a long time.
I think so. Because I do love how he handled it, because he did lead, he put out the recommendations based on what he was being told from the scientists, but he didn't say it was mandated. It was recommendations, and I'm going to leave it up to the governors to govern,
right,
and do their job. And I mean, both from a strategic standpoint, I think that's brilliant, because now he puts it on them. I mean, hey, you guys are doing, and same with the opening back up is, hey, it's on you. And, the Chicago mayor, did you see the video of the Chicago mayor come out? Was it yesterday or the day before? Is, you will obey this. If not, you don't, there is no hesitation. You will go to jail. And it's like, you don't have the authority, because I sent that up to our governor, Governor Polis here in Colorado. He says, it's a law for you to wear a mask outside. I'm like, Governor, you don't make law. That is not your job. You need to go back and look at the Constitution. The Constitution says that's done by the legislative body. And no one has introduced a bill to do this. It hasn't gone through committee and debate, and it hasn't gone through both sides of the legislature and then came to you. So no, you don't have the authority to do this. You're not a dictator.
Isn't every state in that same boat? The legislator makes the laws. The governor does not make the laws. The governor doesn't say, I require you to stay in your house and to wear a mask when you go to the drive-in window at Wendy's.
Right.
Which by the way, nobody does.
Right. And you see how much of a joke it is, because you go through the drive-through and they've got gloves on and they've got a mask, and it's the same mask and probably same pair of gloves that they've had on at least for that day, if not for the whole week.
And they're handling food and money.
Right. And they're still, it doesn't matter if you got gloves on. No. That ain't protecting anything if you don't change them after every interaction.
That's exactly correct. They have to do that in a hospital.
Right.
A dentist even changes his gloves patient to patient, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And what about dentistry? Have we not had any dentistry?
I know. Exactly.
I've thought a couple times, what if my tooth goes?
Right.
I'm an old guy. What if my teeth start to, I need to go to a dentist, and the dentists aren't doing it. So we had to take our cat to a veterinarian. Now the veterinarians were open, but you had to park in the parking lot, call them. They come out with a mask and protective gear and get the cat, take the cat in, call you on the phone, tell you what's wrong with the cat, then bring you back the cat, and you give them a check. How many things like this are going to change? Look at school. What about kids in school? What's going to happen here? How can you have kids separated one from another in a classroom? Classrooms aren't big enough. And haven't they proved also that for the most part, with a very rare occasion, kids have been fine? Right.
And the only kids that I've heard of that have died from it are those that are high risk. If they're, if they have heart disease or a history of anything like that. Asthma, live in a smoking house.
Yeah, all that contributes. And then how about this one? And I'm asking you this now, Mark, because I'm enjoying this conversation and you know what's going on. How about these hospitals that get more money for a COVID patient, and how many people have died of something else and been reported as that they died of COVID-19? I think a lot of this happened in New York, to be honest.
I do too, because I talked to a guy. I was out walking my service dog, and this guy I ran into, and so we started talking about it. And he said that a friend of his, who's a doctor in New York, in the city, said that it doesn't matter if it is anything. If you die of anything that's respiratory, heart, diabetes, pretty much anything, they are going to list it as a COVID-19 because one, they're not. No one's doing. I mean, no one's doing autopsies.
No.
Because they don't have the time and the effort. I mean, it's ridiculous that where we're at. And I think the majority of Americans are starting to see it both on the left and the right. And I think.
And what they've done to our elderly people in some of these places, so they just put them out to die, man. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just like Soylent Green or something, you know?
Yep.
I mean, old people, well, you've got the COVID, go back to the home. And they go back to the home and infect everybody else in the home. And then most of them people die. Right here in Gallatin, Tennessee, which is right near where I live, 18 people died in one nursing home here.
Yeah,
that's a travesty. It's a
Yep.
travesty. It shouldn't have happened.
No, it shouldn't have. I mean, you know, and the one thing that's I think that brings me about in and the hope that I have is, you know, I have seen a lot more people coming to Christ and looking out for that faith and that relationship with the Lord, because they're afraid. And it's amazing, you know, hey, I don't think he doesn't make things happen, but he'll allow us to have tribulations in our life to strengthen us for whatever he has in the future. And I think that's one thing that gives me the hope that whatever we're going through, I know is going to be, I mean, it's going to be overcame. It's just not sure how long we're going to have to go through this tribulation before it is.
Well, you got to me there, Mark, because I totally believe in Jesus and I believe in my God. And you got to me with that statement. And I'm glad we're on that page because I got a phone call a couple of weeks ago. Do you remember the Statler brothers?
Yes.
Their young singer, Jimmy Fortune, you know, they retired 17 years ago, and Harold Reed, the bass singer, just died.
Okay.
And natural causes. He died, he had bad kidneys. But Jimmy sang with them for, oh gosh, years. And now he's out doing solo work. Well, me and Jimmy are good buddies. You know, we're kind of the two tenors. He was the Statler tenor, was the Oak Ridge tenor, and him and I have been good buddies, you know, for a lot of years. So he called me late the other night. It was really a great phone call. And he said, you know what? He said, man, I'm watching the bluebirds sing and the sun come up and the dogwood's blooming and all of that is unaffected. God still is allowing springtime to be springtime.
Mm-hmm.
He said, and he's speaking to all of us. I just hope we're listening. And yes, I think God does definitely have a message for us in all of this, Mark. And we need to humble ourselves and we need to be prayerful and stay optimistic as he would have us be. Yep. And try to find out where our lives are all going to change some over this. The way we do things are going to change. They've already changed big time. But the plan ahead, we need to be faithful and optimistic and prayerful. And I think that's the message God's telling us, man. I think he's been saying to us for a long time, hey, you all got away from me. Yep. This nation has got away from him. Big time. If you go back in the Bible, you know, look at the things that happened. Now, I can still say what a blessing it is. I'm not covered in boils.
Right.
And I still have TV and I still have internet. We're talking on it. If the Chinese really wanted to piss us off, take away our Wi-Fi.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, what would we all do without Wi-Fi? Everybody talks about how Zoom and we're doing this. And my daughter works for a company that has kept her employed, but she's doing all her work at home on Zoom. Well, if we didn't have Wi-Fi, we wouldn't even have the Zoom, would we?
No.
So, golly, we got to keep the Wi-Fi going. My wife is one of them. She's like a hoarder. You know, she's one of them people that saves up stuff in case the calamity comes. Right. I'm in shape at my house because of her. My granddaughter said the other day, my mom was made for this. But she's always said for a long time, she said, wait till one of our enemies, and right now with our underbelly exposed, wait till they take away our grid. Wait till they get in there and attack our grid. Now, you as a military man that has protected that kind of thing, it's possible.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. and it's through what we use every day is the internet. I mean, and that whole book on unrestricted warfare, it talks all about that. I mean, they wrote it out and gave it, and somebody asked me, because I'm on the board of the NRA as well, and I'm an advocate, a big advocate of our guns and the right to use them, and not just to protect ourselves from the guy down the street that's a bad guy, but it's more so to keep our government in check. But I was getting into a debate with this lady. It was actually in Nashville. I went down there and I went to dinner. I got invited to dinner with this very liberal couple over at the Standard. And we were talking, and she's like, because she asked me, well, you're a gun guy, I'm sure, because she knows my history and who I am and that. And I'm like, yeah. And she said, well, don't you think it's worth restricting some of these things to protect people? I'm like, well, if you could prove to me that it actually protect people, then yeah, I would agree with you. And she's like, well, what about all these school shootings, things like that? I mean, why does you're a person of faith? Why does God allow it to happen? I'm like, and I use a football analogy. I'm like, we've taken God out of our schools, we've taken him out of our government, we've taken him out of our lives. God isn't making it happen. I mean, in the absence, what is it? He is not the absent, is the absence of cold, or darkness is the absence of light. And if you don't have light, you're going to have something fulfill it. And I'm like, God's on the sideline saying, Coach, put me in. If we want to solve our problems, put God back into our lives and live our life as he asks us to. I mean, somebody else asked me, well, how do you deal with all these problems, and this and this and this? I'm like, there's this book, and it's the most read book in the world. And if you read it, it will give you an example of how to take care of any problem that you ever come across. And the guy's like, really? What is it? I'd love to read it. I'm like, it's the Bible. Well, that ain't true. I'm like, yeah, it is. Go read it.
Yeah, it is.
But when that conversation I had with that lady and her husband, because they were talking about gun control and this, and, Trump is this and he is this. And I'm like, so I got a question for you. I said, what do you think the Second Amendment was for? And she's like, well, so people could hunt and fish and protect themselves. I'm like, well, no, it's for us to protect ourselves against the government. And she's like, well, the government would never do that. And I'm like, now hold on a second, because everybody in the liberal side of things is telling me how they believe that Trump is a dictator, that he's going to stay past his second term if he does get elected a second term, and he's going to just never leave. He's going to be that dictator because he's so arrogant, he's so narcissistic, and da 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 da. And she's like, well, I think he is. I'm like, then you should support the Second Amendment because that's what it's for. And she stops.
Zing.
Yeah. And she's like, I've never thought of it like that. You're right. I'm like, exactly. I don't care whether you believe he is or isn't. I believe that's why our forefathers wrote the Constitution the way it is it doesn't matter if he is or he isn't, or whoever gets in there. We, the people, have the authority and the right to force ourselves and make sure the government does what we want. And it's like she had an epiphany right there and had never even thought of that. And I mean, she's
liberal people never think of it that way.
No.
Guns are bad. We're bad if we like guns, and guns kill kids in school. So we should not be. I mean, I've had a concealed carry permit now for 12 years. And I'm a lifetime member of the NRA. And so far, my guns have not killed or shot anybody.
I've set my gun down on the table and yelled at it and screamed at it, and it's never done nothing. It just stays there until I pick it up.
Oh, brother.
I did have a wonderful weekend. This last weekend, I went up to a friend's place up in Paonia, Colorado. It's up in the middle of it's on the other western slope in a town about 400 people, and he has about 10 acres. And we went out, and my 8-year-old daughter, I got to take her out the first time shooting, and she just had this smile on her face. She's got a little 22 rifle, bolt action, and it was the best day in her life, I think.
Wow. Wow. That's a great thing. That's a great thing. I have a grandson, Luke. He's 21. He's in the Navy.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. He joined the Navy about a year and a half ago. He's down in Jacksonville right now, and he's about to go into air rescue.
Okay. There's a lot of opportunities after that for that kind of job.
There is. He's already studied a lot of medicine, corpsman kind of thing, and he's gonna start flying in helicopters and stuff. I think he may be going to California. I'm not sure. It could be Norfolk, but he's in Jacksonville now, and he's going to go out there. I'm just so doggone proud of that boy. His words to me were, "I just want to do something cool for America, Pop."
That's it.
Guys like that, guys like you, I love you, man. I love you.
Tell him I said when next time you talk to him, tell him I said thank you for his service. Thanks for putting his feet on those yellow footprints.
I'll do that, and I think I need to send him a copy of 13 Hours.
Okay, I'll get you one. I'll get one sent out. Yeah.
I'll send it to him. I just think in talking to you how cool it would be for him to read that book. But yeah, he's into it, and I'm proud of him. As you know, I never served in the military. My parents sure did, as you know.
Yep.
And the sacrifices that are made for service are huge.
They are, but I tell, because I get a lot of guys that have, even those that have served, are like, I didn't get to do what you did, or I wish I could have. And I'm like, you don't. You don't wish you could have been through what I've been through. But I also tell them, I'm like, remember this is, don't doubt yourself, because everyone anybody who enlists put their feet on the same yellow footprints as I did, raised their hand and swore to uphold the Constitution. I have no doubt if you'd have been put in that situation, you would have reacted the same way I did, because you have the mettle to do that. But each of us is also, the Lord has a purpose for each of us, even for those that didn't serve. I mean, like you and the Oak Ridge boys, I mean, the amount of storytelling and love and entertainment that you brought, that was the Lord's purpose for you, to take those words of your father and your mother, put them into a book or into a song, and that lives through your life. I mean, and what better gift that you can give to anybody is sharing that, in my mind.
Well, thank you very much, Mark. My mother was such a patriot, man. I mean, she married my father right after World War II. In essence, like I said in the book, I think she married them all. She loved the soldiers, man. She loved the soldiers. My mother would go downtown on Veterans Day and buy poppies from every single veteran that was selling them. Came home with a handful. She would cry when the flag went by. She would point at Daddy in his wheelchair and just cry. And that's how I was raised, man. I was raised by, my daddy was disabled most of his life, but man, when he was okay, it was amazing to see what the sacrifice and the price he paid.
Yeah.
For what he did over there for 50 days in Europe after D-Day. But the point of the matter is like he said, there's men and women who run towards the problem, and there's those that run away.
Yeah.
And you're one of those guys that ran towards it. And I thank you for that. I thank my daddy for what he did. My mom for raising me as a patriot.
Yeah.
And yeah, the Oak Ridge boys, I think we've done a lot of good along the way, man. We've been very close to the military.
Yep.
And we've done a lot of things. And God's been good to us, man. He's just given us opportunities to wave the flag, man. And I'm for waving the flag.
And it's the one, this younger generation coming in through the music industry in all genres are so worried these days about saying something about patriotism. Mm-hmm. You have those few that do, but a lot of them are really afraid to take a stand because it's going to hurt them from an industry standpoint. And, and it's unfortunate that not more of them are stand up, like you guys are, like Charlie. I've gotten to know Charlie Daniels real well over the last few years since Benghazi. I mean, every day he tweets out, Benghazi will not be or Benghazi won't be forgotten.
Yeah, Benghazi's not going away.
Yep, yep.
Oh, I love
And
Charlie. Charlie's the best of us, man. The guy, he's just an inspiration. And boy, he can't wait to get out there either. He tweeted the other day. He said, "I can't wait to turn my fiddle up to 10 and just saw."
I know it. I know it. I can't. Yeah, and I don't know if they're going to be able to, with the way it goes, because he has his volunteer jam, and it'll be interesting to see if that happens. I think it's in September, but
So far, big stuff in September's on, but I guess we just got to see. All of us guys, Charlie, me, Travis Tritt tweeting today about it. All of us guys are in the same boat, man. We're dead in the water right now and figuring out a way to stay alive till we can get back out of the water.
And I know a lot of guys are doing it. We need to do a jam session on Zoom or something like that, just for the heck of it.
Yeah, a lot of people are doing it. Some people have done some incredible work, I think, doing that kind of thing. Some people maybe shouldn't have.
That's true. That's true.
I've seen a few people in their living room playing the piano on a microphone that maybe they shouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
We're talking about it right now. We've got an opportunity where the four of us might be able to do an online concert kind of thing. It'd be well scaled down, of course, acoustic, either with guitars or with just a piano player. We're an old gospel quartet, man. Well, all we need is a piano player.
Oh, exactly.
Just stick a guy on the piano and we can sing.
Yeah.
And our piano player, Ronnie, has been with us for 42 years.
Yeah. Well, and that's another thing with, you older musicians, you guys do things to take care of your people. I mean, like Charlie doesn't have, and Charlie doesn't have to stay on the road. I mean, you guys probably don't have to stay on the road if you didn't want to take care of your people that have been with you for so many years.
Right.
And, that is just, that's a testament to your honor, your integrity, and the commitment to, to the people, not only that you work with, but that you sing for as well.
That's right. Thank you for that. I feel like we're that kind of group. I'm with good men, good, honest men, Americans, man, patriots, guys that would do anything for you, and guys that you could trust with your life, always forward thinking, no backward thinking. It ain't like, oh, how can we stop doing this? It's how do we do it better?
Right.
It's been an honor to be in a group like that for I grew up in Philly, man. I grew up in the streets. I had my crossroads times when I was either going to be a hoodlum or make something good out of myself. And my mother in Jesus Christ put me on the right roads, to be honest. And a few people along the way, like we all have, that have put in the crossroads to influence you. I just lost a guy. He was a veterinarian, 87 years old. He just died. I worked for him for 4 years when I was in junior high and high school. And when my father had a stroke, I was just 15 years old when that piece of shrapnel stuck in his carotid artery and ruined him for the rest of his life. Okay.
Right.
I needed a father figure to help me through some of that. And this guy, this old veterinarian, Dr. Frederick Root, who tried to encourage me not to go in the music industry. And our big joke all these years has been, well, I was wrong. He wanted me to be a veterinarian, but I was too stupid to go be a veterinarian. I couldn't do it. And college wasn't for me. I didn't have the wherewithal. But I just lost him 2 days ago, and I've thought about him for a couple of days as one of those guys at a crossroads in my life at 14, 15, 16. I really needed him, and he was there for me, and he pointed me in the right direction. He pointed me towards God, not away from God.
Yeah.
He pointed me towards hard work and integrity and being honest, just like my mother did. But I feel sorry for people that didn't have that in their lives, Mark.
I know it. I was blessed. My parents were together until I was 16, and then they got divorced. But I grew up in eastern Colorado, out on the plains, and almost all of my family lived within 20 miles of each other. My grandfather on my mom's side, he had served in World War II. He wasn't in on the landing of Normandy. He came in with Patton, but he had started in North Africa.
Mm-hmm.
He got
there too.
Yeah, he was in North Africa, then came in with Patton's army. He was a tank commander. Through the Battle of the Bulge, he had the German occupation medal, so he stayed for the occupation afterwards.
Wow.
Had 5 Purple Hearts, Silver Star, Bronze Star. and he was so instrumental. And I didn't even know a lot about, and the one thing that always bothered me is I'm probably one of the few of the grandkids, because I went in the military. He shared more with me once I went in. And he shared his shadow box, but he didn't talk much about what he went through or any of that stuff, just because it wasn't that way then.
No, the World War II guys didn't do it anyway.
Right. And
my father had to get really, really drunk before he'd start telling me anything about what happened over there.
Yeah. And so that's the one thing I always encourage people, because one of the things that's probably helped me a lot is the fact that we did write a book, and then that book was made into a movie, which pushed me into speaking about it and talking about it. And that in itself, just talking about what happened, was very cathartic. And I tell everybody that I come across now, I'm like, you need to tell your story. And there's for two reasons. One, you need to tell it for yourself, because typically we're the kind of people that we take that thing, we ball it up in a ball, we put it way down here in our gut, and we just want to bury it. Well, It's going to come out one way or the other. You can control how it comes out, or it's going to come out through your actions, through alcohol, through drugs. One way or the other, it's going to come out. But the other reason is because of my grandfather. I wish I would have had his stories. I wish I would have known them, because there's so many people, the kids don't know what their grandfathers or their fathers had went through. And your offspring deserve to know your life story. You don't have to tell anybody else. Tell it to them, or tell it on this day. I tell this one friend of mine, he was in Vietnam, and he hasn't told much of his stuff to his kids, especially his grandkids. And I'm like, you need to put it in tape record it, put it in a safety deposit box, and let them know about it 5 years after you're gone, whatever. But
he's got to do that. I was really lucky, because I learned very little from my father. I learned about the landing at Utah Beach one night when he was really, really loaded. And another night, probably with a lot of Ballantine beer and a little bit of Four Roses, I learned about what he did to get the Silver Star. And it was pretty brutal. And that's all I ever learned from him, was those two stories. The rest, my mother kept a memoir. She wrote terribly. She always wanted it to be a book. It was the worst writing you could possibly imagine, but yet it was all still there. She wrote everything down: when they met, what he did, what it was like, what their early days were like before even I was born, 2 years after they married. And if not for my mother's memoirs, I couldn't have wrote G.I. Joe and Lily. I could have, but those memoirs, and my sister had them all.
That is so awesome.
Was just amazing. And I told my mother on her deathbed, she was in the soldiers' home, and she was about to die. Daddy had died earlier. And in some of her last words she ever said to me was, "Are you going to write that book about me and Daddy?" Mom, count on it. I'm going to write the book.
That is so awesome.
So, a lot of people don't get to honor their parents in song and book. I had that honor and that opportunity. And a lot of people have read their stories. So Mom would be happy. And then when I get what I really tried to do right, Mark, and you'll understand this, is not being a military guy myself. I wanted to get the history and the military stuff right. I didn't want an old veteran to read that book and go, "Well, now, son, let me tell you, the hedgerows, you got that wrong."
Right.
Instead, I've had veterans say, "Wow, that was a blessing. It meant the world to me. Awesome. You got that right, son." Well, that always made me, feel really good. I think that book and that little song. I'm almost 72 years old here. I think it's one of the greatest blessings of my life to have been able to have done that.
Yeah, definitely.
It wasn't a gigantic bestseller. It wasn't made into a movie, although it could be someday, maybe. Who knows? But you read stories all the time about stuff that comes out as a movie. Maybe somebody gets the idea for a screenplay, 20 years from now.
Right.
Books are here, but the movie's still made. And it might happen. It might not. But whether it does or not, what a blessing it has been to me personally.
Yeah.
To honor them, to have honored them.
Hey, Joe, you mind if I got to use the restroom real quick? You mind if we hold up for just a second?
Well, you know what, Mark? I got to tell you, I got a whole bunch of other stuff to do.
Okay.
Here. We're probably going to have to end this one. I hate to, but I think we're going to have to do it. And I wish you'd stay in touch with me. We've got our emails.
Definitely.
Sometime if we get back out there to Colorado or something, man, I'd love for you to come out to a show and meet the guys. And I know everybody would be honored to meet you, man.
Well, thank you. I would definitely do that. And God bless you, and keep up, you guys, and keep doing what you're doing. And thank you for all that you've done.
Thank you, Mark. It has been an honor to talk to you. I won't forget this the rest of the day, man. I'll be going back over it because you are something, and I'm just honored to know you and meet you.
Well, thank you so much, Joe. Hey, you have a wonderful day, and God bless.
God bless you, Mark. See ya.
Yep.